Today is the 10th of January, 2023. I am now halfway. I guess this would be considered middle C probably, or maybe a little bit higher than that. But anyway, I've got 40 keys left to do, meaning taking out the flange, shank, hammer to get at this block down there. This assembly right here is connected to this action right here. That pin slides through that block right there. This block is fastened underneath here, as you can see all these. But that hole and that pin, as I pointed out the other day, coincides where that gray area is right here. Every one of these has got lint in it, built up from over 100 years probably, or 110 years of this life of this piano. I'm going to be cleaning all this out and working my way through. I do have parts on order from Reader Piano up in Michigan, Lansing, Michigan, I believe it is. And in particular, ordered 6 pieces out of a 100-year-old piano. Should be leaving today from Lansing, Michigan, and heading my way. Really, all I need to do is just replace that first one that I started to make on my bench, but for $8 for all of this. I'm getting 6 of them in case something else breaks. In the life of this piano, probably repeat this, I had repaired this years ago using a piece of oversized tubing. So this one's going to come out, and the one on the end when those pieces come in. Today is the 11th of January, Wednesday, and about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Tuesday, about noon, I put in an order after talking to Jim Reader Piano up in Lansing, Michigan. It is the go-to source in the United States for Bluthner, in this case Bluthner pianos. And because I needed to replace a shank, I already pointed this out in key position number 1, right here. The shank was busted off at the hammer end. I started working my way across here, as I pointed out before, and by removing, this the flange, the shank, and the hammer from the top, and then the assembly that's beneath that. A combination of this, I believe, this part right here, and this part right here on newer pianos, I believe it's called a whipping. It's got the springs and all that allows for the flexibility, so when you're pressing on the key, it bounces up and down. But anyway, actually my internet was off yesterday for about 12 hours. But on my cell phone, I saw a notification from FedEx with a tracking number. And what I needed, and what I got from Jim Reader, not new, but used, probably from, my piano's 110 years old, but it might be a 90-year-old piano, could be a little bit newer. But I received from FedEx today the 6. I decided to have a couple for spares, but 6 of these. They charged me $8 a piece for this action. I could not make it for this. I couldn't duplicate this at all. I could duplicate the shank and all these other parts probably, but for $8, I'm really grateful. This cost me $48 for 6. And FedEx shipping overnight. I was expecting that, but it came. But I'm going to be replacing one of these shanks, possibly this entire assembly right here, but I'm going to be changing out this flange, this part right here that pivots on that little pin right there, because this is from my piano. For those that are, if you're paying attention, the top of this flange and the top of this actuator are different on the newer parts. If you look closely, this has got a bit of a set screw, probably to put more tension on that little red bushing that's inside there. Pin goes inside of a red bushing that's pressed into this. It goes through the shank right there. So this flange is different. But not only that, I want to put position number 1. This one, I'm not sure what number it is, but if you see, okay, this is 75 roughly. I'm taking the flange off of mine because it's position number 1, so I'm going to substitute that for these because none of these are position number 1. But I'm going to also, I'm not sure if I'm going to change out what's called the actuator, but if you notice the top of this is different. right here, this area here. See that block that's pinned in there? Acts as a little bit of a bridge, probably to get more support. Mine, all my ADA keys do not have that. You see the top of this actuator is just squared off at the top. That's got a bridge across it. But all I was looking for was the shank. Really happy to have gotten these. Now I can finish the piano. It takes me a good hour to do 7. To take this out, to take out the bottom piece, to clean them up, to oil them and everything else, put them back in again. It takes about an hour per 7 of these now to do this. So I'm hoping possibly to be finished today with my piano. Well, the keyboard at least. I am down to about 15 keys left to do. Decided to switch gears and with my newfound parts, replace this flange for that one. So using this tool, brand name is WNG, whatever that is. I'm sure there's others. I pressed this pin out of this flange from out of there. I'm going to be putting this one back into its place. Then onto the hammer. For those that have never seen one before, this is what pushes the pin out. But the other side, conveniently, pushes it back in. See, the slot there accommodates for the pin. On to doing it. Prior to doing that, though, I actually did lubricate, put a little bit of the oil on the bushing and on this side so that the pin slides a little bit easier. In order to push the pin through, I'm using a 3/64 drill bit as a guide. I've put the drill bit base about 3/4 of the way through into the secondary block where the pin is on the right side. I'm going to be pushing the pin through and forcing the drill bit out, hopefully using this tool. I had to go out to my garage where my bench vise was in order to support this so that I could sort of peen on this hammer end. You can see where it's a little flush. See the end of the dowel right there in the center below to the underside of the felt. That's the end of the shank. This is now pressed down into place. It should be more than tight. This is my flange number 1. You see the number on here. There we go. That I'm putting in that spot over there, thanks to Reader Piano. I'm putting this in. I've now installed flange number 1 with a different shank from a different, probably newer piano because of the height of this part of this actuator right here. Shank. The hammer actually itself, sort of an optical, not quite an optical illusion, but the hammer itself is actually warped out. I used the only hammer that I had. So it sort of warped out, and so I guess the other choice would have been when I put this on the shank to rotate it slightly so that it's just parallel. But I'm going to see after I put this in the piano what actually happens. But I've gotten all the way, actually I have to take from about the first 8 out because I wasn't oiling the bottom pieces like I was done on that end. So I'm going to be taking these out and rechecking the lubrication in the first 8 here, as well as the base pieces. So that plus 15 more on that end, and I will have the piano together. Short of taking this hammer off and replacing this shank with one of the ones I got from Reader Piano.